Hi guys, welcome back to BlueMoonRisingTV. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty good today.
I'm feeling wonderful. I woke up yesterday incredibly hungover, but I didn't care because Kelechi Iheanacho and Kevin De Bruyne and Pep Guardiola, they've exposed Jose Mourinho. They've exposed all that myth about he was a fraud and he wouldn't be able to do it in the Premier League. They've done that in one glorious victory, one sensational half of football in particular, and it feels pretty good, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, City just keep on playing really well, and it just okay, at some point we're not going to go unbeaten, but I just feel as though this is a team that is willing to put everything on the line and fight until the very last whistle.
We've done better than I expected so far. Yeah. 6 wins out of 6. We've answered every challenge. We're mixing it up as well. We're feisty, we're creative, we're intelligent. We're everything that a lot of people said we wouldn't be under Guardiola. He said this style wouldn't work in the Premier League, that we wouldn't have enough aggression, that we'd be undone by these teams a little bit more physical. If anything, we're out fighting teams as well. Yeah. That's the thing. We've made Silva. Silva's looking like aggressive. He's winning challenges. He's tracking back. The whole team is reinvigorated and it's great. And Manchester is blue at the moment. This is our moment.
There doesn't seem to be a weak link in the team at the moment. No. Well, actually, maybe there was one, which we'll get to later on. But anyway, this is the fan cam reactions where we look back at the fan cams from the weekend and react to them. Now we've had a little bit of time for everything, for the dust to settle. The dust hasn't settled. Nope. The dust is still, the whole building has fallen down in Manchester.
Still a haze of blue cloud.
There's a haze of blue everywhere and the United fans are choking on it. Anyway, that analogy has got to come to an end now. We're going to get onto the first fan cam. This was quite funny. Big talking point from the weekend. Let's get onto it.
Yeah, and also what a worth for Kevin De Bruyne. 60 million. Pogba was worth how much?
I think it was 89. Nearly, 89 million. Fernandinho had him in his back pocket all night.
Has anyone found him yet? Missing person report.
I think they're still looking for him. Milk cartons everywhere with his name on it, I've heard.
I love the way both of you just go into proper piss take mode there. You're both how much was he again?
Oh, no, seriously though, has anyone found him? I'm worried about him.
I know.
He's a new young man in the City's not been back in for a while, you know.
The fact to go missing with like 80,000 people there watching and millions around the globe and still nobody can find him.
I have heard people have been calling the police reports that Fernandinho left the game with £89 million in his back pocket.
In his back pocket. Right, okay.
Anyway, cheap jokes aside, this leads on to Fernandinho and De Bruyne and other such things because this was meant to be United's greatest ever summer in the transfer window, according to some fans. And you know what, on paper it looks good. Yeah. But it just goes to show you, Fernandinho is an exceptional midfielder. So is Kevin De Bruyne. They may have Paul Pogba, but a fully motivated City outplays them, and that's what happened.
I think we've got to say, you know, it's been well documented. We wanted Pogba at City.
He's a very good player.
Who wouldn't, you know, in the team? Well, on that showing, maybe quite a few people wouldn't want him. And you think, you know, he's played in the Premier League before. You think he's know what he's letting himself in for. But it just shows you, you know, it's not the Premier League and a Pep Guardiola side that's well drilled.
Well, that's it.
And not going to roll over for anyone. And I think, you know, Pogba, I'm sure he'll get better and I'm sure he'll go back into it. But there's a reason why Manchester City weren't in for him. I'm sure we've got the money, but there's a reason why United decided to table a world record bid and City didn't decide to beat that.
Well, that's it. He plays in a certain way, Guardiola, as we all know, and maybe he doubts Pogba is, for that value at least, the kind of answer that we need. He went for Gundogan for 20 million. When he comes back, he's going to look like an absolute steal. But for me, he obviously decided that we didn't want that for that amount of money, and maybe there's a better options elsewhere. But what that showed for me is that you can get all the players in the world, you can get all the best players, but you have to be a team, you have to be a collective, and you have to play in a certain kind of way. And De Bruyne, Silva, Fernandinho, they were all 10 times better than United's midfield the other day. They ran the show because they worked as a unit, they did what was asked of them, and they were coached better, in my opinion. They played a certain style. And that whole thing about how you can buy star players, and Real Madrid did it for years, but they were still lagging behind Barcelona at times, because the Galactico thing doesn't always work. And that's why this summer, when we signed the likes of Nolito and Gundogan and all these players that maybe weren't stars, you started to think, why is he doing this? Is there actually some bigger plan at mind here? Is the idea to build a team, not necessarily a collection of all-stars? And a lot of people, understandably, were saying we need to make a world-class signing, a statement. Well, it looks like we didn't need to, as far as I'm concerned.
People were worried about City's activity in the transfer market because, we didn't sign that Galactico. But, you know, Guardiola, trust him. He knows what he wants. He knows which players need to slot in where. Gundogan, I think we would have paid double that if we would have needed to, because he identified him as a player. It just happened to be that he had 1 year left on his contract, didn't he? Or it was his release clause and his injuries. But so if we
One final word for David Silva. He looks absolutely brilliant at the moment. I've not seen him work that hard in ages. He was a captain as well. He was captain David Silva, and he looks like back to his very best, but a more gritty, determined version of himself as well.
Somebody said, Rob Pollard it was from the MEN, mentioned how Guardiola, probably one of his greatest achievements so far, has been managing to find a system that caters for De Bruyne and David Silva.
He loves midfielders.
Because last season, he'd famously said he'd buy all the midfielders in the world, didn't he, if he could. But one of the things that we've always wondered about is how to play those two, because we've seen De Bruyne play out on the left last season and he wasn't as effective, and we could say the same about Silva on the right as well, but it seems to have found a way that they've both got a kind of free roaming. De Bruyne, just the way he carries the ball forward, picks it up at deep if necessary, always looking to play the ball forward, never looking for the easy pass, and it's just, we ran them ragged. They were absolutely knackered. So were we by the end of it, but that was because we were at the end. It was a fantastic game. That is what Manchester derbies are all about, and long live Manchester derbies like that. If
the next one is Kevin De Bruyne. Sensational. 60 million looks a snip at that ability. He is going to be a future Ballon d'Or contender when the likes of Messi, Ronaldo slowly fade away, and so on. He's that good a player.
He's still young as well, and he looks like a player who's in his absolute pomp and peak.
I would not swap him for any midfield in the Premier League at the moment.
I said that last season. I said I would not swap Kevin De Bruyne for Ronaldo, because if all things considered, what I mean by that is the amount of Ronaldo looks after himself, so he's still got a few years at the very top. But De Bruyne, we're possibly going to get like 10 years out of him. He looks like someone who will look after himself as well. He looks like a consummate pro.
Obviously,
a 24-year-old De Bruyne right now, I think we have, like you said, we have got one of the very best prospects, because he's still a prospect almost in world football. We cannot say enough about Kevin De Bruyne. Okay, let's go on to the next fan cam.
But he was apparently meant to get exposed in the Premier League. Like, it wasn't meant to work, and his style wouldn't adapt to it. But so far, it has worked.
I think a lot of the Man United fans are saying, he'll get found out. It's an easy league. They've only got two good teams. Well, how does it feel today, boys?
I think it's funny that people say he always comes to teams with the great squads, and you know, why doesn't he go to like a Stoke and do it with them? Well, A, he doesn't have to, and B, like you said before, there's a lot of teams who've had great, amazing squads who haven't managed to do it because of whatever reason. And you could say this season,
maybe a couple of years back as well.
We've achieved. Yeah, we have. And and you could say that if United don't win the league this season, you say, well, they should have won it with that squad. And you can say it about Real Madrid and Barcelona every year. But then, since he's left Barcelona, they've not achieved quite. They've still been a very, very good team, obviously. But they've not. He won the Champions League twice in 4 years, didn't he? They've won it once since then. So you would say, although they've, they are an amazing squad, and they've signed Luis Suarez and they've got Neymar, they've probably not been successful on paper as they were when he was there.
For me, it highlights how, I guess, naive a lot of people are towards Guardiola. Maybe it's kind of a defence mechanism to pretend he isn't that good because they didn't want him anyway, so to speak. But Guardiola is brilliant, and the idea that he was never going to adapt his game or never going to learn another style is totally utter. It's nonsense. It's genuinely nonsense, because he's a proper student of the game. He studies games, studies teams, opposition like no one else in the world football. He's so unbelievably focused on the game and on his players and getting the best out of them. That success will follow him regardless of where he goes, because not only is he a genius in terms of, he's obviously excuse me. Pep speaking, losing my voice here. Yeah,
sorry.
All
Come
that
on,
shouting
you'll get through this.
But not only is he incredibly tactical thinker, but he's also very passionate, and he gets people going. So when you've got that perfect combination of emotion, passion, and firing the players up, then you bring that kind of real incisiveness and really kind of like insightful thought process to the game. Then it's a perfect combination, and he's showing his value that it will be translatable anywhere, because anyone who's that motivated and that thorough in any aspect of the world, anywhere, will be successful. He could be a doctor and be amazing, probably Guardiola, because he's got the right thought process and the right mentality for anything. That's why he's friends with the world chess champion. As Paul was telling me the other day.
Yeah, Kasparov. He's like, he has dinner, invites him around to dinner to talk about chess with him. Yeah. He just, whatever he sets his mind to, I agree. He's a real student of whatever he participates in. I think one of the guys who's on his team, one of the guys we've got, I've forgotten his name, Estiarte, I think his name is. He was a world water polo champion as well. And he was like seen as like the Pele of that sport. So they've got it shows they look at football in a different way. They don't look at it as,
isn't he?
Yeah, it's instead of let's like almost rip it up and start again. and let's just play how we want to play. We don't have to listen to anything else. I think one of the subjects we're going to get onto was with defensiveness and defensive play and goalkeeping, perhaps errors. But one of the things he said after the game yesterday was when somebody asked him, do you think that maybe that style of playing, passing it around in defence, isn't suited to Premier League? He said, I'm not going to negotiate on that.
Yeah, he did.
And he's like, so he knows how to play, he knows how he wants to play, and it's working so far.
But he's mixing it up as well, because he said he'd have to adapt his style a little bit.
There's certain things which he thinks are just pillars of what football should be. Exciting football, expansive football, and we're playing all that. I tell you what, just the work rate, I just love the work rate. I think there's a reason, and we can all see it, why Yaya Toure has been nowhere near the squad.
He didn't even make the squad. Alex Garcia was on the bench instead.
You know, if you don't show the right attitude, then Pep Guardiola is going to throw you out, and you don't want that toxicity. And it's a reason why he leaves clubs in such good health.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a Mourinho, and I'm not just saying that for the sake of it. He is a guy who brings in the players that will bring him instant success.
He's an explosion, Mourinho, isn't he?
Yeah,
He's a big fiery ball thing.
And United, I guess, right now, they think that's what they need. But a lot of United fans, I know, will be starting to think, because if the results don't go his way, there's a lot of expectation on Jose Mourinho's shoulders right now. And if they don't go his way and quickly, then things could get very fiery indeed over there.
Yeah, well, look,
soon.
Pep will make mistakes. He will do, because he's only human. And there's going to be a lot of people, as soon as he loses his first game, a lot of people are going, whatever. But so far, his start's been impeccable. There'll be mistakes to be made. But the one thing we'll always get, as Paul was saying, is intensity. We'll get desire. And if we don't lose, it won't be for a lack of trying.
If we don't roll over, I will always remember that semi-final at Real Madrid for City. It was just like there for the taking. Real Madrid just didn't look, they looked sloppy. And we didn't take it to him. And I think this team now, now, over there, we'd beat them.
I agree. We'll never have that again. We'll never have that passiveness again, and that's what I'm really happy about. At least not while this man is in charge, because he is focused on improving this team. And once again, he wants to show people who said he had it easy how nonsensical that is. He's made all these players look to the level they should be at, but that is not easy to do. Most people fail that, but that's why we pay him as much as we do, and that's why he is so highly rated.
What is there left to say about Pep Guardiola? Let us know in the comments. Who's the better manager, Pep Guardiola or Jose Mourinho?
Well,
I think we all know the answer.
One other clip first.
There was one sort of elephant in the room maybe for now that we've not talked about too much yet.
Chilean elephant.
So this Chilean former Champions League winner, La Liga winner, elephant.
Two-time Copa America winner.
Let's watch the fan cam and see what we think afterwards.
Bravo looked pretty shaky on his debut. I wonder what Joe Hart's thinking right now. What
do you think he is thinking right now?
Look at this guy. What an absolute joke. Like, can play the ball with his feet. Probably should be a midfielder, not a goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's funny, isn't it? The day that Bravo got all that stick, John Hart made.
You called him John Hart over in Italy.
on the team sheet, he was known as John Hart. He flapped at a goal, and
they
lost as a result. I don't want to stick the boot in on Joe Hart here. It's not the time for that. But it shows that with goalkeepers, every goalkeeper's got an error in them, and he was thrown in the derby for his first game. He hadn't really trained. It felt to me a little bit naive, but then again, Willy Caballero, I wouldn't have been that happy about seeing him play either.
No, I said on the preview before that I wouldn't start Claudio Bravo in goal personally, because I think it's just too much of a baptism of fire to play in your first game in the most hotly contested derby in years, in aeons, the most watched game in football history. As simple as that. You don't throw anyone, regardless of who they are. Maybe I would probably not think twice about Messi, but I wouldn't throw a keeper in, because they were obviously always going to be intense. They were always going to launch loads of long balls. And you know what? He made a mistake. He did make a mistake, and it was pretty naff. For me, it was a communication error with John Stones. He did shout for John Stones. You see when he's running it. John Stones didn't get out of the way, but you've got a young defender there and a new keeper. It's a recipe for disaster, and it happened. And maybe there's also potentially a penalty that could have happened, because he was a bit reckless on Rooney. I don't know. I'm a little bit biased. He did get the ball, but I can see why people would say maybe if it was the way around, I'd be claiming a penalty there. That's what I'd say. But you know what? Pep did say afterwards that he liked the fact that he was on the front foot. He liked the fact that he went for it and he didn't drop his head. And at times in the first half, his passing was really good.
Yeah,
it was
ironically, it was kind of Route 1 football that got us that first goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because he kicked it out to Kelechi headed it.
It was actually Kolarov who played.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was the other goal that started. Well, they did start a lot of the movements. Did start with Claudio Bravo.
He's a keeper adapting to this league. David De Gea, United, you know, the United love him, but he was pretty dreadful for a while until he adapted to the Premier League. He was dropping crosses, he was flapping, but he then eventually learned to cope with the physicality. And there's nothing to say that Claudio Bravo can't do the same, but we have to trust in Guardiola because he knows what he wants.
The communication error thing, I mean, it looks like a team, a goalkeeper that hasn't really trained with the first team squad, which is exactly what the issue is. And I don't know if he speaks English. I haven't heard him speaking any English. So it's going to be a matter of time where these players and the goal are going to work a lot now on communication. So let's see what happens in the Champions League game. But please do not write off Claudio Bravo. Don't use this to be spiteful against him.
No.
Again, got to reiterate, we want to put the Joe Hart thing to bed a little bit now because that's done. But at the same time, people keep referring to it, so we kind of got to keep going back to it. But Claudio Bravo is a top-class goalkeeper, and the last thing we need to do, criticise him, but don't get on his back, because that's not going to help anybody.
There's no point pretending it was a great performance. It wasn't.
No,
it was
it
all
wasn't.
right. It was, but in general, we won. No damage was done in the end.
Yeah.
He made the mistake. Maybe he could have. He was going to make at some point while he adapted to the league, and thankfully it came at no cost. And if anything, it'll probably just intensify his efforts for the next game. So you know, from a negative, you can point out a potential positive there.
Yeah.
But he's got an exceptional reputation. You know, the first ever Chilean to win 100 caps, 2-time Copa America winner. Barcelona fans loved him. They wanted to give him a new contract as well.
Barcelona wanted him to stay, but he wanted to come here.
It'll
and
happen,
with
and
Guardiola.
it just so happens it was going to happen in the first game. His every game, you know, the derby. It was a story written, and so sometimes you can't stop stories unfolding. That's football, but it is what it is. It is done now. We won the derby, and I couldn't really care less after that now.
No,
that's
no,
how
no.
I feel,
I think that's a lot will be learnt from that, and I think the things are just going to get rosier from now on. Right, guys, that's the end of our fan cam reactions. Let us know. Get right stuck in those comments. What do you think? Where are all the Manchester United fans, by the way?
How sweet does it feel? Oh, they've been very quiet, haven't they?
Yeah, they've suddenly gone quiet. They were quite yappy before. Giving it all this before, but they seem to have disappeared in the comments.
Fraud.
I don't know where they've gone. I think they must be somewhere with Paul Pogba. They must have part of the search crew. Anyway, guys, please get involved in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling about the Champions League game we've got coming up. Very important game. Let's see if we can get off to a winning start. We'll be doing a preview very shortly. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in a bit.